Hello there, it's Jan here from JB Crafts. Thank you for joining me today. I have a little Technique Tuesday video for you today. We've not done one of these for a while. If you're new to the channel, I do have a playlist of Technique Tuesday that I was running pretty much every week for a while last year, and then I broke off to do some other things. And I'm not going to do this every week, but I am going to throw the odd technique in here and there. So what I've got today, this is one I've been wanting to try for a while, and I'm going to put it in my scrap busting list, I think, today, because this is a great one for using up paper scraps. So this is what I've actually made today, and it's using what's called a herringbone technique. And I've seen this all over sort of Pinterest and YouTube, and I thought, you know what? I want to have a go, and it's a very, very simple one to do, and as I say, great for using up any paper scraps. So I just went into one of my colours, chose the purples, and picked out a variety of paper scraps. Now I've gone for sort of blue purples as opposed to the pinky purple, and just picked out a variety of papers that all kind of fit that colour palette. As you can see there, lots of different patterns, lots of different sort of styles of paper. I've got some that are just flat paper from paper pads. I've got a pearlescent one that's got a little bit of embossing on. I've got a completely pearlescent one there that looks as if it's been in the sun a bit too long here, so I sort of made sure I've used the, you know, the main colour on there, and all I've done is I've cut strips off them, lots and lots of little strips. So I've got a bunch of them here. Let me just grab these. Some of them I've cut at 1/4 of an inch. Some of them I've cut at 3/8 of an inch. Some of them are at 1/2 an inch. And some of them are at 3/4 of an inch. So yeah, lots and lots of different sort of widths. You can see there the different patterns. I'm just going to get those into some sort of order. Yeah. So again, lots of variety in widths and sizes. They want to be, one of them wants to be long enough to span the piece of card that you're going to work on. So I'm going to work on a piece of scrap white card. I've made it slightly bigger than the panel that I need for my card blank, and then I'm going to die cut out of it. Two reasons. It helps to just bevel the edge, I think, when you've got a nice die cut panel on the front there. It also helps to seal all the edges, so where you've put all the strips together, just by die cutting it and adding that pressure just helps to seal it, in my opinion. So yeah, always worked a little bit bigger and then just cut it down. So I've only gone sort of 1/2 an inch bigger. I'm going to work on a 6.5 by 4.5 inch panel and cut it down to a 6 by 4 to go on the top. It's a 7 by 5 card, and then I've just matted it a couple of times. I've just added a very simple sentiment on there, and then I've put my greeting on the inside, again keeping it very, very simple. I've just popped some little silver punch circles in there just to link it to the silver on the outside, and that's what we're going to actually make today. I'm going to focus on the technique and show you that element. So we'll pop that one over to one side. I've got all my strips at the ready there. I'm going to keep those all over to one side. I do have a few little pieces left as well from trimming the edge of the original one. So if any of those come in handy, we could use those as well. And I'm going to keep those longer strips for doing my first section. So the first thing I did was actually cut my piece of cardstock that I want to work on, and this is just smooth white cardstock, measure 6.5 by 4.5, and then I've taken some double-sided adhesive sheet. This just happens to be a Crafter's Companion one. It can be any double-sided adhesive sheet, and I've stuck my piece of card down to the sticky side of the double-sided adhesive, and then all I'm going to do with my scissors is just trim this out while it's still got the wax paper in shape in place. I just find this a lot easier and a lot less sticky, for want of a better word. So I'm just going to trim that out. That piece will go back in my packet. I've got a little piece on that outside edge there, and just doing this while the paper's in place saves everything getting stuck together. If you've got a good pair of scissors, it shouldn't matter. This bit I'll save. I can use this for sticking a sentiment on or something like that, so that'll go in the adhesive box. And then once I've done that, I can take that piece of wax paper away. We're finished with that piece now. So on the back of here now, I've got the other side of the double-sided sticky, and that's the bit that we're actually going to work with. So what I'm going to do is just lift that off, and then the whole panel here now is sticky. So the whole piece of this has got that adhesive on. So just be careful with it now, because you will end up getting stuck to it, but you can just see the shimmer on there. You know, the card's just a matte cardstock, but you can see that shimmer from the sticky element, and it is sort of sticking there. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to start off, for this particular technique, you need to go across the card. So this piece here goes from one of the short sides and then breaches one of the long sides. So that's the very first piece that I'm going to stick down. And we need to divide this piece of card into sort of 4 quadrants. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go with the 2 longer pieces that I created. And again, there's no exact science to this. It doesn't matter at what angle you go, but I want to come off one of the short sides and up here to one of the long sides. So I'm literally just going to place this so that it goes over each edge like so, and press that one down. Okay, then we're going to use this piece, and I'm going to now chop this section into 2, and again I want this to come out of one of the sides here, so I'm going to bring this back down out of that longer side, and what I'm going to do is just make sure that this piece is right up to that middle section here. So make sure that it just pushes right up and bring that out over your other long side, and then I'm going to flip it over, snip that one, and then we need to do the same on this side, but instead of going in across, I'm going to come down at an angle. Now I don't particularly want the piece of pattern that was on the original paper, so I'm just going to snip that away, and then I'm going to come further down here, and I'm going to bring this one, I think I'm going to go, yeah, just sort of slightly to one side of where I was here, and we're going to come out over that edge. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll get those snipped off so that you can see the idea behind it. So on the reverse, I'm just going to use the edge of the card there and just snip those pieces away. So just holding it with the pieces that I've stuck down so that I don't end up stuck to the piece of double-sided sticky. And you can see now those little pieces, I'm not going to use that one again, I don't think, so I'm actually going to dispose of those. So this is going to be my card, it's going to be this way, and now what we're going to do is we're going to work inside these quadrants, and I'm going to use the other pieces. I'm going to try and follow the pattern that I did originally, just so that it's a little bit easier for me, because it does take a little bit of time. So take one of your chosen pieces, we're going to work over here first, and it doesn't matter whether you start this way or this way, but you're going to run one of your pieces into the corner there, so make sure that it's touching this one and that it runs parallel with the piece that you've laid down. You don't want any of the sticky showing in between here. Then we're going to take the next piece, and we're actually going to bring that one and bring it into this edge. So where we've gone this way, we're now going to come back this way. So I'm going to bring it and pop this one flush with the one that we've just put down, and then bring it down my piece of sticky. Now if you don't have the double-sided sticky, you could do this. You could put a tape runner all over the back of it. You could use your double-sided tape all over the back of it. You can use wet glue, but it does get very messy. You can do the pieces individually and glue those and stick them down, but I just find this is a really easy way to do it. So then it's just a case of going through your pieces, having a look what you've got. We've come this way, we're now going to go back to this side, and this is what's traditionally that herringbone pattern. You're going to go in, down, until you've filled that quadrant up. So just alternating my pieces here. I'm going to use the wider one this time. I'm looking at what goes, so I've got a slightly darker one, then a lighter one, darker one, slightly lighter pattern. I've now got quite a busy pattern because these two are quite plain. So if you're not 100% on what papers go together, use scraps from a paper pad. Most paper pads are designed that you can choose any paper out of that pad and they will work together. So again, I'm now going to take another one and then I'm going to come back this way and fill in the gap. I'm not worried about what's overhanging at the minute. Once we've done this side, I'll trim those off because some of these pieces will then fit in the other areas. So now we've gone that way, we're going to come back this way. So I'm going to take one of those really dark ones now against this one and pop that in, run it alongside the other pattern, making sure each time that you've got them right next to the piece that you've just laid down. Then we've not used this one, so I'm going to come back this way and you'll soon get the idea of how this actually fits together. So let's have a look. Have we got any that we haven't used? So what I'm actually going to do now is take some of, I've got lots of little bits that I chopped off the other design, and because I've only got a little bit left there, I'm just going to grab one of those and I'm going to use that to fill in that last gap there. I'm not worried about that tiny little piece there because we are going to trim this down. And then flip it over and trim off any of those pieces that are overhanging using the edge of the card there as your barrier. Okay, so then keep all these pieces because we can then turn those round and use them. I think I've got a little bit of sticky there as well. Don't pop the card on the desk, Jan. There we go. And then this side. And then I'm just going to flip it round and come round that corner there and trim that side. Okay. Even those little tiny pieces that are getting stuck in there, we don't want that on there. Come along. You can't play on there yet. So we've got our first quadrant done now with that zigzag. There's a little bit overhanging there, but I'll do that when I do the long side. So that's that herringbone pattern. So I'm going to turn it now and we're going to go along this side. Okay, so I am going to go with one of the longer strips again. And I'm going to go up to that middle and run it parallel again with, oops, let me just move those up a little bit. Some sticky going on there. Make sure that it runs parallel with that one, so make sure it's long enough to come right off the edge. Okay, then I am going to bring in let's have a little look. Will one of those pieces work? One of the scraps is long enough, so yeah, just need to remember to make sure that your edges are cut at a nice angle, and then we're going to go back in here and we're going to run that one along that original. Then I'm going to bring in a darker one again. So we're going to go with that dark because I've got two reasonably light patterns there. And then I'm going to, because I've gone that way, I'm going to come back in this way and again run it adjacent to that first piece. Then we're going to bring in one of these again, so that when you get to those shorter pieces you can start and use the ones that you've clipped already. And again, that one's going to lay next to that one. Then I'm going to bring in one of those lighter pieces and come back this way. And once you get the idea of the pattern, it is really easy to do. It takes a few minutes to cover the panel. If you're a little bit sort of in awe of it, start off with a smaller panel and just work your way around it. And then what have we got left? Let's have a look. We'll go with a piece of the check again in there. So that one's going to go, no, that's too close to that one. Let's have a look. We'll put a piece of the plain in. We've not got that in there. So we'll go with a little bit of the pearlized card there, can go in that one. Like so. That one's very long, isn't it? So we'll just snip that off already. And then back in here, I think we'll go with that one again. That one can go into there. So just making sure that it goes right up into the corner and right up into the one that you've already done. And then it wants a tiny, tiny little piece in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten the edge on one of the scraps, and I'm just going to use, oh, that is the same as that one, isn't it? So let's have a look. We'll go with one of those off there. So yeah, just by straightening up your edge again, it creates some extra little scraps. If you've just got those tiny pieces left, and that one can go in there. And then flip it over and trim again. So each side, trim the pieces off, because those are the ones that you can reuse, especially those longer elements. And you can see when you get to those smaller pieces, it's handy to have those little bits left. So then we're going to trim that side. May as well do that one while I'm there. And then we can go back to one of the other pieces. Another piece trying to get in on the act now. Come away. That's it. So yeah, we're just going to carry on like that now and fill in those pieces. So I'm going to go with one of those nice long pieces again along this long edge. And we're going to start here and we're going to run it all the way along off that edge. And then we'll straighten this one up again because I think this piece is long enough. And we're going to turn it the other way, like so. Then we'll go with a piece of the pearlescent one again. So again, just making sure you straighten off those edges so that you've got that flat piece to go up against the last one. Then we are going to go with one of those. And again, I'm just going to straighten up the edge with my scissors and bring it back the other way. And then right in that end, we will go with a piece of this one. And again, all I'm doing is just taking the angle off. And if you're not so hot with angles, you know, use another piece that's already got a straight edge. Line them up and snip it that way so that you're not worrying about whether you're getting the right angle in it or not. And then that last one can go in to the gap there. And again, we can snip off those long ones. And then we've just got that last piece. So please feel free, if you've got the idea of this, to sort of buzz through this. I'm not going to speed up the video, but if you want to just buzz through it, I will not be offended with that there. So right, let's have a look. Let me turn mine round now. So I'm just following my original sample. So we've got a piece of that one. Oops, being very friendly. So that one's going to start here, and I'm going to go along that edge. Then I have got a piece of the checked one. So I've tried to use each pattern in each quadrant, but don't overthink it. I'm just going with what I've already done for the sake of the video because it's a little bit faster. But as long as you're alternating those patterns and you're alternating the direction, try not to overthink it too much. Then we will go with a little, this is where you can use the scraps up, so save the longer bits because these will come in handy if you wanted to do another project. So what I was saying about the straight edge, so I don't want that little white piece on the edge of there from the pattern, so just line it up with a piece that's the same width, and you can use that to create your straight edge. All right, so I've used that one, and then this one's going to come in here like so. And then I just need a little tiny bit. I just happen to have got a little tiny corner. And this is what I mean about scrap busting. You know, come on. This would end up in the bin. Normally, I would put this in the bin. But because that's just the right size and it's a pattern that I haven't used, it can go in that last bit. So I would pop all these in a packet with the relative paper pad if you've used a paper pad. These will go in a little packet and go in my purple scraps section, because there may be a time where I want to use either some of them or repeat this technique, or you may want to make more than one card so that you've got a little stash of them. And certainly the longer bits. I probably wouldn't now keep, you know, the little bits like this. These are going to go in the bin now. We'll put those in recycling. But certainly those longer pieces, anything that would be of use on your design, you know, like this one, would go into that scrap bag. So let's move all those out of the way now. Some of those have got little tiny bits of sticky edges, but we can live with that. So a couple of the shorter bits, as I say, I will get rid of now, because I know I'm not going to use these for another herringbone pattern, but I may use them, you know, for other occasions. So this could be the panel that goes on your card, absolutely. I said I was going to trim it down a little bit, so I'm just going to take my rectangle here. And again, like I said at the beginning, the reason I do this is I love that beveled edge that the dies give. And also it helps to seal those outside edges. And cropping things, you know, sort of gives you, you can have a look and see, you know, if you've got a bit that's really, like we got that little tiny element here that wasn't covered. So I'm going to bring this just a fraction that way and chop that bit off. I'm going to make sure, it's like I've only got a little tiny triangle here. So we'll actually move it up and you can decide which bit then that you want to crop. And all I'm going to do now is pass that through my Gemini. So I've got my cutting plates at the ready here. Pop it on there. Put my sandwich together, and then just forgive me while I just pop behind me now to pop this through the Gemini. It sits on the desk behind me. Well, I've got a set of drawers behind me, and it sits on top of there on a turntable. So it works for me. And I haven't found any reason to actually have it on the desk, and it would take up a lot of space on the desk as well. So yeah, I'm not really too worried about moving it out of the way. And then we've got our frame cut out of there. So just release that tape carefully. Now you could save this bit and use this on another card. I did originally wonder whether to actually put this on and map this, you know, sort of raise this up a little bit. So that would be an option. You could put some foam tape behind the frame, or you could lay the frame flat and put some foam tape behind this one. But for my design today, I decided to not use this bit. So that's going to go in the packet with the scraps, just in case I ever decide I want to use that on something else. And then we've just got a quick bit of matting and layering to do now. So I've got a 7x5 card. Standard card. I've got a piece of purple that is 6 5/8 by 4 5/8, and I am just going to pop that straight onto my card blank. So we'll literally just pop this on with some of my all-purpose glue, which is getting very low. I need to refill or change my bottle. I get a bit nervous when it gets near the bottom because I use it so much. So that's just going to lay over there and leave a nice border around the card. I like that white edge around the card there. That's going to sit on there. And then I wanted to bring a contrast colour in. And I've gone for some mirror card. So if I'm working with the cooler colour palette, I tend to go with silver. And if I was working with a warmer colour palette, I'd probably go with the gold. So any of you that watched my last video, that was done in nice warm yellow tones, and I actually paired that together with gold mirror card. This one, we're just going to lay on the silver. But just before I do that bit, I wanted to just break the design a little bit for the sentiment. You don't have to do this. You could use ribbon here. I went for vellum. A, I love using vellum, and B, it's transparent, so you can still see the design through the back of it. So I've just cut an inch strip off my piece of vellum, and we're actually going to wrap that around the herringbone pattern before we stick it together. So I'll just leave the mat for a second. So this one I'm just going to bring around here. I'm going to leave about the same distance at the bottom as there is here on the vellum itself, and then just wrap it around that top layer. And then I'll use my tape runner just underneath there and stick that down, and the same at that side, because we're actually going to put some tape over the top of this. And because I'm going on to my mirror card, I am going to run a couple of pieces of double-sided tape. It's not very often I use anything dry, but the Collal all-purpose glue doesn't play very nicely with coated cardstock. If you get glue on the shiny surface, it will sometimes bring off the coating. So I tend to sort of stay away from it because I am not the best. Even though I say, you know, less is more with glue, I often end up using too much. And if it squidges out of the side, that's when it can damage that lovely shiny surface. So all I'm going to do is pop a little bit of double-sided tape on there. Oops. Remove the liner, and I tend to do these one at a time because the tape's very, very sticky. So I'm going to use the sticky side here, and I'm going to position it with the one that's still covered. And I know roughly how much border I've got. It is only a small margin around the edge. Get 3 of those corners in place, and then your 4th one should stick and give you a nice parallel edge. And then once you've got that one stuck down, we can really quickly take off the other 2 pieces of liner, and you know that everything then is stuck in the right place, and it's just got that nice little 1/8 of an inch border all the way around the side of it there. Now on the original one I put foam tape on the back of here, so I've got a 6 1/4 by 4 1/4 inch. It's just a 1/4 inch bigger than my original one. This one I'm going to pop flat. You know, it's all optional. A lot of it depends on how you know, if you're making it to actually send to a recipient, then are you going to hand deliver it or are you popping it in the mail? I think these days, if you're mailing things, they're usually better reasonably flat. And I have got a little bit of dimension behind my sentiment, so I don't want to add too much more here if you're going to pop it into the mail. So that is literally as simple as that card front got. And then all I've done is used a couple of my nesting dies, create a silver mat. I've stamped my thank you greeting on here, and then I've just popped some. I've got a couple of foam pads behind these 2 layers. That's the only dimension. They're only 1mm, so it's not massive. And then I've got some tape on the back of here. And I've just gone for red line tape. A, it was at the side of me, and B, I know that it's going to help stick that vellum in place. And then decide, you know, do you want to go in the centre? Do you want to go at the right, the left? This one we did to the left. I think this one will go over to the right, just to give you some options on it. So all I'm going to do is use the points on my nesting die there to centre it. And then once I'm happy with it, give that background a press down. And that literally is as simple as it gets. I'm not doing an awful lot to them today. Again, I've added a few gems to the original one. I've got a little cluster of 3 on here, and I've got a couple over there just to echo those 2 and offset the design. And there you can see we're pretty much sort of the same design there. And then on the inside I added my sentiment inside on another piece, and I've gone around the edge of it with a bit of lilac ink to bring it in with the front, and I've added the little silver dots just to pick up the silver from the front. So that is my technique for today. It's the herringbone technique, using up all those little, you know, strips of paper scraps. As I say, just cut them with your guillotine, or if you prefer to use a craft knife, and have a go at popping one of those together. Really, really nice background, great way to use up the scraps, and I just think it's something a little bit different. So I hope you've enjoyed that one today. I hope you're going to have a go. If you do, you can always upload photos to my Facebook page. JB Crafts exactly the same. Love to see what you guys have been up to. I will try and comment on them. I do keep a check on the social media pages, and I'll be back very soon with another tutorial for you. See you soon.